We are live.
We're live indeed.
How are you?
So you're looking great.
You're looking better. You're looking better.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very
So,
much.
how are you? Like, what's new? What's shaking?
Oh, I am really good. I'm 14, 15 days into a really kind of focused health program for myself,
Mhm.
and I'm feeling great. Getting lots of rest, doing my daily boxes and doing my daily feathers and and I'm living in paradise, so it doesn't get much better than that.
Where are you at right now, number wise?
I'm only at 15 and a half. However, it's all about exercise for
Hmm.
me because I'm high on attitude. I'm high scale on rest and rejuvenation, and very high on nutrition.
Hmm.
And so all I have to do is move my exercise up. And until now, I've actually been kind of not able to exercise all that much.
Yeah,
So I know that within about 2 or 3 weeks, I'll probably now start into my exercise regimen, and it's going to just scream up. So I'm doing a 15, 15 and a half. It'll be 17, 17 and a half in about 3 weeks.
ooh, leveling up the bar. I love it. I'm
Yep, I'm
toggling.
excited.
Yeah, I'm toggling between 16 and a half and 17. So now I've kind of bypassed the 16 range, and
Yeah,
I'm really steady state there. My sleep hasn't been great. My recovery aspects haven't been great. So I've made a lot of great changes on health and all those things, but I think I need to kind of put it all together instead of siloed. So that's
yep.
kind of that next progression for me.
Yeah. It sounds like you've actually stabilized yourself. It's very interesting, Sammy, because the truth is, when you get to high performing people, generally the one where they fall down is in the area of rest and recovery.
Doesn't shock me one bit.
Yeah. So that's the one where you take in my case, it's all good, but it's going to be in the exercise area. It's going to be really easy because once you get exercising, you get stronger fast anyway.
Yeah, and you can just start one little thing at a time instead of
Yep.
trying to tackle 10 things. I always tell people just take a step.
Yep.
Start there and then progress. But
Yep.
yeah,
So true.
fantastic. And as ever, today's Thursday, one of my favorite days of the week because we get to build some cool stuff together today.
Yes, yes. I like this day. I always look forward to it.
I know. And like when we have to move it to different days, obviously we flow, we work it out, but there's nothing like having it today. It just feels different when we talk on Thursdays for me. I don't know for you, but I've become so equipped in being disciplined to my days and my inquiries, practice, and themes that
Yep.
I get thrown a loop. I kind of have to pause, which is interesting because I've never
Yeah.
been like that.
Yeah. When you get yourself kind of like your schedule down, which is what you want to do,
Hmm.
if you want to accomplish anything, you want to actually set it up so that you're working at it incrementally every day, every day, every day. And so you like to have a routine.
Yes, it's all about consistency because, when that
Yes.
motivation subsides, the real differentiation becomes with just being consistent and 1% better every day.
Yep.
So, so I have one for you. I'm pretty excited because a lot of athletes are graduating now and they're, graduating from school. Some are still progressing in their seasons, but for the most part, a lot of the graduations have happened and there's been like a consensus among all the different types of athletes and backgrounds that are graduating that they're nervous a little bit, rightfully so, right? They're going into uncharted territory. And they asked me a couple of questions and I've kind of consolidated into certain themes that I heard.
Okay.
And one of the biggest ones that kind of came out was how do they keep the fire that they have in sport in life? That's one. How do they stay curious and want to learn and evolve? Because that's what they do in sport often, right? And they apply those tools quite a bit. And how do they find their place when they don't even know where to start? like on the day one?
Okay, good. Yeah, well, that's an intelligent question to be asking yourself when you're going from uh, one domain
Mm-hmm.
to another domain, and you're not really clear about what's in that domain. Is, how do I do this, and how do I maintain my uh, you know I don't know if it's status, but definitely some sort of velocity in how I'm growing and how I'm developing myself and so on. Like, that's an intelligent question to be asking. What do you hear other than that? Do you hear anything other than just I'm nervous about this, or
So
what more are they
one thing,
saying?
the one thing I recently heard, and I had to noodle on it, John, for a little bit because it was very complex in how they said it. And
Uh-huh.
like a surface level person would have just taken for what it's worth and moved on. But I really like to ask why. And
Sure.
I asked a couple athletes to expand on what that meant when they say the fire, when they say they're nervous, when they say they don't even know, uncharted territory. Like, what do they mean? Why do they mean it? How did they come to that word or choice of words? And it was interesting. I saw an interview online, and it was all around an athlete, an Olympian, that articulated no longer being an Olympian, which really resonates to what they're going to be feeling. It's just at a different level.
Why, no kidding. There, right there. That's an ultimate part of the conversation right there.
100%. And this is what was interesting. The way they articulated was that sport was their son, and everything revolved around the sun, which was their
Mhm,
sport, meaning when
mhm,
they ate,
mhm.
when they went to bed, when they took
That's
a
right.
shower, when they were able to practice, when they were able to take a break, when they were able to nap. Their whole life was around sport. And now that they don't have sport, where is their son? And it was interesting, that choice of word, right? Rises and sets, everything around sport, identity, feeling, when you actually feed yourself. And it took a lot of exploration for this Olympian to understand that she was the sun and she is the sun. The sport was just a catalyst for how it all looked from her view. But at the end of the day, it was really all about her making those choices. It was just around something that she was doing, which I thought was interesting how she evolved there. But I wanted to pause and get your thoughts on that because I never thought about it like that. I've always thought of it as more like a lighthouse because it was my solitude. It was my sanctuary. It was my place that I could go to and be authentically myself. And I felt like I lost that. But for her, it was it was everything. It was her end all be all. It was her son.
Well, I really like that image of it is my son. Another, if you take a look at it and you take the really pragmatic view, when you're saying something is your son, you're also saying it is the source. So it's the source of your energy. It's a source of light. It is the source of energy. It is the source of everything.
Mhm.
And when you take a look at it from that standpoint, and you take a look, uh, you can really see that sport is easily can easily become the source of everything, or the sun for everything that a person organizes their life around. However, if you actually step away a little bit, you can take a look and you can see, there are a lot of things that are suns. There are a lot of things that are sources.
Mhm.
People's spiritual growth, people's family, business, uh, any number of things like, you know, I, all of a sudden I'm getting this flash because you were talking a little bit about the Grand Prix
Mhm.
and the Formula One and everything else like that. I was around that world when I was younger for a minute or two. And yeah, it's very sourceful. Something that is bigger than you and encompasses everything that you are, that you can organize yourself around. In my world, it was around the world of dance.
Mhm.
And it was all that I cared about for a long time. And it It governed how I ate, how I slept, how I took care of myself, the kind of exercise that I did, but also my spiritual state and so on like that. So there are many things that can be your sun. And it's interesting. What you might consider for these people is that they're going from one galaxy to another galaxy. So what they're looking for is, what is my sun again? What is my source again? And how can I actually surrender myself to whatever the dictates that are required by that sun, by that source, and so on like that. Because we've learned all the rules. It's easy when we've learned all the rules about sport or about dance. You learn the rules. Now, it's not that it's easy, but it is like, okay, I've got them and I've got them down. And I just know that that's what I'm doing. And on Monday, this is my program. And on Wednesdays, this is my program. And so on like that. But to find a different source is to learn a different kind of relationship to the rules of that game, the new game that you're playing. And the question is, am I willing to actually surrender into the mastery of that game, be it family, be it business, be it sport, be it, you name it, my spiritual growth and development, so on like that. And once you find the bigger game, the game that's exciting to you, then there's really only one rule, which is all in.
Yeah. And I think so. Let me break down a couple of things that I internalized when you were speaking, as well as when athletes were talking to me.
Uh-huh.
You don't have to get it right on the first go, right? You're going to enter some new uncharted territory. It's going all into your point and building brick by brick, like you did in your sports career, as you became masterful in your skill sets and acquiring different things, right? You had your values, you had things that you lived through, but you started to garner a lot of competency, and you're able to get to another level. You're already a top 5% cut if you make it to the collegiate space, and then if you make it into the pro and Olympic space, you're already a cut of a cut, right? But one of the things that helped me, and my mom gave me really sound advice. She said, you don't have to have all the answers when you're going into uncharted kind of territory. What you need to do is, when you have those moments where it's extremely uncomfortable, which you should go for it, like go to the unknown, just find some semblance of your lighthouse. And now, after hearing what we just talked about, it's get your lighthouse there so you can always just pause, right? What is your moment of sanctuary? But then to find your next sun. What an opportunity. Like, I never thought about it like that, but I always tried to find my lighthouse. And for a long time, I didn't have that. I didn't feel like I had anything to pause. So I just went all in, all out in 50 directions instead of being focused and disciplined into a couple of areas, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just wanted to fail fast in whatever and feel it and go for it. So I don't think there's a right or wrong approach, but I love that my mom had said, well, hold on, you're embarking in this new entrepreneurial space. Like, your family's your lighthouse. Like, we're not going to judge you. We're going to just listen. We'll have radical candor, thoughtful debate when warranted, until you get that next sun. You have the passion, you have everything, so I'm putting all these pieces together that you're saying and that this Olympian said, and it's mind blowing how mindset is the most critical aspect to this.
Well, I'm loving what you just said, and I'm loving what the advice that your mother gave to you. Like, you always have a sanctuary, a lighthouse. You always have a place where, whenever it gets too thick, you can kind of go and you can kind of know that you're safe there, and that you're safe. But I want to say that in every galaxy where there is a sun or a star that is what's revolving around it are a number of planets. And I could say that once you go into another area, those planets would be probably outstanding stars and coaches that are in that particular universe, in that particular galaxy. And getting in and getting into orbit is one thing. So just getting yourself into that new galaxy and getting yourself into orbit and getting yourself going.
Mhm.
In the meantime, looking around and finding your coaches, your mentors, your places where you're going to be able to learn, places where you can kind of draft off of other people, places where you can say, hey, I'm the new person here and I don't know this. Could you, find somebody to coach you and so on like that? They are always there. It doesn't matter what the field is. There were people there that were there before you, and there are people who are there who are world class at what it is to do. And I would say, find the highest level coach that you can find, and you attach yourself to the conversation that they're having, because their conversation is having them succeed where you are struggling, because you don't have the vocabulary of that particular universe down.
No, that's a great point. And it goes back to athletes. Once you perform at, a level at a collegiate and Olympic and pro level,
Yes.
you garner a competency, right? A competence. You become, whether you're consciously competent or unconsciously competent, like a Kobe Bryant. And then now you have to restart, and you have to be curious, and you have to know you don't know. And to your point, to fit into that galaxy, you need to understand that there's levels to the game. And when you're at the bottom of the top of that next level, you're going to be consciously incompetent. And that's okay, right? It's who you surround yourself with to be able to be in proximity with others who are at another level to force you to come up.
I think that when you cited Kobe, I think you cited a really remarkable example. When he left the game of basketball, where he was one of the greatest, not maybe the greatest, but definitely one of the top 5 greatest that ever played the game, for sure. And his spirit was indomitable. But when he left, he went off and he actually started making documentaries and films. Mm-hmm. And he surrounded himself with people who were total professionals who really knew that game. And he put himself in a way and allowed himself to be coached to play in that game in a way that was effective for him, won an Academy Award. Mm-hmm. Now, you take the case of, he knew that he needed to surround himself with people who really had mastery in that area. And in so doing that, he thrived. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, you take a guy like Michael Jordan, who was consensus greatest who ever played the game, but all of a sudden he became an owner and an owner coach and an owner coach player. He kind of kept filtering it down for a team that was never going to win, because it was going to be his will that was going to make it win, and that wasn't enough. He didn't surround himself with people who were good or better than he was at doing what needed to be done in the area of recruiting, coaching, administration, all of those things. What he was the greatest player. That does not automatically mean that he was the greatest coach or the greatest leader or the greatest manager or the greatest owner that ever lived. And when you take a guy like Larry Bird, one of the greatest that ever played the game, and he went over, he won, but he did it for 5 years and he was out, because it just completely wiped him out. Again, trying to do it all yourself and having the command that you have when you're a player, it doesn't necessarily translate into every other area. We need people who are players as administrators. We need people who are players as mentors, players as coaches. And I mean, by players, I mean capital P. They really know how to play the game that they're playing, mm-hmm. and surround ourselves with them. And Kobe did that.
Yeah. And I think this is what's interesting too, right? He also was in the VC space, venture capitalist space. He got a hedge fund, like he really started to diversify himself. So
Yep,
the lesson in that piece of it is sometimes you may not fully know what you want to do. Maybe you aspire to have a family office that has multiple legs and the multimedia side, the venture capitalist side, all of those things. Great, right? That's really wealth, and you can scale your family fortune that way. But what was really, really interesting to think about is sometimes you don't know the full bandwidth of what the next 20 to 40 years is going to look like. And I am big on, I don't want to just focus on, the year. I want you to be present 100%. You need to be intentional where you are today, visionary, definitely, but the decisions you make today are going to have a ripple effect 20 to 40 years down the road. I believe that. And I am a testament to that from sports. It really showed me that. And sometimes you don't know what the 20 to 40 years are, but what you do is you put yourself in proximity. And sometimes you get into proximity with others that are players with the capital P in a space that you never even considered. Did I ever think I was going to work in agriculture? No. But when I got in there, I started to work with the lifeline of that industry, the farmer. No better person to learn about the ebbs and flows of one of the highest GDP factors among many countries in the world than a farmer. Take the politics out. You go to the people who do it day in and day out that have performed at a high level. It doesn't always have to be the person that is a CEO. What it has to do is being around people with mastery in certain spaces
that's right.
to figure out what are the attitudes, behaviors, the competencies, the actual skills you need. Where are you? Have your view of it, and then let them give you their take on you, right? See if it's matched, see if it's mismatched, see if your
But
reality.
look at the thing that they can lay out for you in no uncertain terms is the holes in your game.
Of
I
course.
mean, you're going to get good at any game when you recognize that these are the areas that I have holes in my game and I need to work on that.
Yeah.
Practice will bring you that. That's the purpose of practice, is to work on the holes in your game.
Yeah.
So, you will, on your good looks and your talent and your work ethic, you'll probably get to a certain level. What a friend of mine calls the best of the worst.
Yep.
But in order to get to the place where you are the least of the best and you're working your way up, there is a transition to go through. And that transition is as much mental as it is anything else.
Hmm.
It is literally going, I'm done with this. What can I bring with me as a methodology of learning and putting myself into a position?
Hmm.
And then where do I go find the people that are the players? Capital P, which also stands for capital P professionals.
Hmm.
So the professional farmer, or the professional business person, or the professional driver,
Hmm.
or whatever it is the next thing that you're going to take on doing. Because when you get into it, you're going to be, hopefully, you have moved yourself into an arena where you are going to be the least of the best. And
Yep.
you can start your way of working your way up, but you're not going to do that, frankly, without really serious, hardcore, confronting coaching
Yep.
that is telling you this is where you really need to, you need to lean in here.
So let me jump in on one that's going to throw a little curveball here. So one of the questions, obviously, I always ask why, but one of the areas where I inquired quite extensively with these upcoming graduates was, well, why are you worried about going into uncharted territory? Why do you feel like you're going to lose the fire? Why do you feel this? Why do you feel that? It's interesting. When you're in your 20s, you worry about the external world and your reputation and what people think of you. It's very important to you. It becomes something that sometimes you recreate or do different things in such ways so other people can have a good perception of you. You don't want to have a hater. When you get into your 30s, you realize your haters are going to be there. By your 40s, you don't even care. And then by your like 50s and 60s, you realize no one was even really considering you in the first place. And one of the things that was interesting when we had the dialogue was I said, well, what an opportunity we have the haters are always going to be there. There's always going to be a skeptic. There's always going to be someone that says you can't do something because their insecurity they think is yours and it's not. So let's put that out there. But what an opportunity when someone gives you hate, it really highlights your holes right out of the gate because that's what they target. So why don't you take some of that feedback and say, huh, did they just hit a hole that I have, right? Or something I didn't factor, and turn it into not only an opportunity, but a catalyst for momentum to bridge the gap. And when we started to have that dialogue, they said, I never thought about it like that. I said, living intentionally with purpose and leveraging every interaction is what will differentiate you.
You
So,
know, I have a personal story that kind of is analogous to that actually validates what you just said, Sammy.
okay.
When I was 19 going on 20, I had won in the world of ballroom dancing, I had won the national championship several times. And had a teacher who was rated third in the world as a professional. I was an amateur at the time.
Okay.
And I had my teacher was rated third in the world. He was extraordinary, and he was really, really an extraordinary teacher as well. And so I wanted to go to England, which was the mecca of ballroom dancing.
Okay.
And he said to me, John, I want you to listen to me. When you go to London, one of the things that's going to happen is that you're probably going to go see West Side Story. Had just come out. He said, John, when you see West Side Story, I know you're going to want to do that. He said, John, don't even try. You're not good enough.
Wow.
That became the actual catalyst for the next 20 years of my life, where I eventually in stage arts did Broadway, did television, did movies, did live acts, danced with Baryshnikov, and so on like that. And I'm telling you, every bit of that was my little kind of FU to my teacher, who in that moment no longer was my teacher, because he told me I wasn't good enough to do something. But it definitely stimulated me to actually prove that I was. And surprise, 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 I definitely was.
Yeah. And I truly believe you can really look at things from a positive perspective and a negative perspective. Look, now some things that people say are just mere hatred and there's no value and they're having a bad day and they're putting it on you. Boom. Like, has nothing to do about your gaps or anything like that. But you can always transition energy to be that catalyst. And I've lived with that too, where someone said I couldn't play a position. And then I became, a really flexible hybrid player. And it wasn't that I was a master of none. No, I became a master in the space I needed to for the opportunity that arose when it did. I was ready and I wasn't afraid to take the first step and fall miserably. Like I didn't care because no one else cares. No one else is going to want it for me as bad as I want it. No one's going to know
That's
what
right.
I'm
That's right.
capable of more than me. So it was
That's right.
interesting. We had this good, thoughtful debate on it. And by the end of it, they said, I actually think I'm ready. I said, you think? And they're like, yeah. And I said, well, we only talked for about 10 minutes. What changed? And they go, my mindset. And one of my mentees made a comment, in adversity, you bend, you don't break.
That's good.
And
That's
I
really
said,
good.
that's the level of talk. That is the level of walk that you need to live your life through. You can bend it. You have to be malleable, but you don't break because you're not built like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you break, you quit.
The level of athletes that we're talking
It's
about,
not even it's just
they don't quit.
no, that's not going to happen.
You can fail and that's okay. You learn and you progress.
Fails where you learn. Fails where you learn, fails where you actually find what you're made of.
So
When you because all success comes from the inside.
And I know how much you love our guy Aristotle, and we've used this quote before, but I have it at my desk every day, just as a reminder for myself.
Yep.
Um, Excellence is never an accident. It's always the result of high intention, sincere effort, and intelligent execution. It represents the wise choice of many alternatives. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny.
There
Aristotle.
you go. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. Yes, the practice of virtue forms character. Character unfolds destiny. So
Absolutely.
it always gets into the question of, like, whenever you're being questioned, whenever you're being tested,
Mhm.
it's never a test of anything except your character, which is the only thing it should be a test of. So it doesn't matter whether your son or your source is around sport or around business or around your family. And I would say business, family, sport, that's a pretty good triad right there.
Mhm.
But around education, maybe you want to be a teacher, something like that. It's going to be a question of whether you succeed or fail is going to be a question of whether you bend, don't break. And it's a question of the strength of your character.
Couldn't have said it better. I mean, that really encapsulates what we just talked about. And the important aspect is some days it's going to get a little overwhelming. It's going to get a little heavy because when you want to lean and step and be all in to earn your capacity of greatness, every day is not going to be a cakewalk. Like some days are going to be hard because you have to do hard things. And, I really take my mom's advice very seriously. And it's like, find your solitude.
Yeah.
A lighthouse.
Well, that, and I had a very close friend who he pitched for the Cleveland big league team, the Cleveland Indians. I don't know if they've changed the name of them. They may have, but Cleveland, and then also for Kansas City Royals. And he was a junk ball thrower. He was a pitcher,
Okay.
and he was the guy that had the move to first base, the pickoff move.
Mm.
So that when you went to umpire school, you saw the video of him. That was the limit of what it could be before it was a balk.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great, great pitcher and a great guy. And he said to me something that you're so really clear with us. Some days you win, some days you lose, some days you get rained out, but you suit up for all of them.
Yeah. And it's, I think the biggest thing that I reiterate to myself too, because boy, do I have those days too. We all do. Right.
Yes,
And
yes,
no one is too great to not have these days. We all have them. But it's just a bad day. It's not a bad life.
yeah, just a bad day, not a bad life. Yeah, that's good. That's
And
really good.
it really, it simplifies it because
Yes,
your brain can take you to 50 million scenarios that don't exist, but you somehow convince yourself that are probable. And now you've wasted mental capacity and energy on something you can't even control. So once I get myself spiraling, the tool I use beyond telling myself it's just a bad day, not a bad life, is I write down all my stressors, all that I'm stressed about, all the things that I think are going to happen, potential outcomes. And then I actually circle the ones I can control. I learned this from a Navy SEAL. And the ones that I can control, then I prioritize. The ones that I can't, they get thrown out. I can't even spend time thinking about it because it's
yes,
not going to happen.
yes,
It's going to
yes.
happen. And then I start to prioritize. And when you start to prioritize the list of controllables, it becomes manageable. Oh, I can do this first. Oh, and if I do that, I'm
Yep,
going to solve this.
yep,
And then,
yep,
so that's
yep,
how I operate.
yep. Wise, wise, wise advice.
And easy. It's all available to us. And we just have to spend the time to do it instead of just thinking things. Sometimes you got to
Oh,
write.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Listen, the mind is a dangerous place. Never go in there alone.
But John, honestly, it's this is a really good conversation. I like the organic view of it and how it evolved and the
Uh-huh.
concept of the sun, the galaxy, kind of finding your way
Yeah.
to orbit, the levels of learning like we talk about, building upon, some of the greats that have done it really well. And You know, there's no better time to be great than now. And
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. I hadn't heard that before in quite that way. I think I'm going to just steal it.
oh, you can have it, my friend. Anything that's mine is yours. You already know that.
Mhm.
But yeah, what a joy. Today was great because I'm launching a bunch of stuff, as you know, and some days it gets overwhelming, and
Yes.
our conversations really becomes my little lighthouse a little bit, to be honest.
Mhm.
So I appreciate you.
Well, I have to say, I very, very much love this weekly conversation, and I appreciate it so much too.
All righty. Well, as ever, we're gonna start um, kind of expanding to include going forward, which I'm super excited to bring others into the flow with us here.
Yeah,
Build some cool
yeah.
stuff together. But
Might as well. It's more fun when you do it with, other people that want to play.
for sure. So I'm super excited, and yeah, as ever, over and out.
Okay,
Bye.
ta. Okay, ciao, ciao.